Chapter 5, I Believe in Science. It's happening to just about everyone. You're stuck in traffic on the highway, inching your way along due to a car accident. But by the time you get to the scene of the accident, you realize it didn't even happen on the side of the highway you're traveling on. The lanes you're traveling on aren't blocked at all. Rather, the traffic is caused by drivers in your lane rubbernecking to get a better view of the wreck that occurred across the median on the other side of the highway. And as annoyed as we might be, we can't help but glance over and examine by ourselves what happened. Why do we do this? When we witness a car accident or hear an awful story on the news, our fight or flight response kicks in. We know we aren't imminently in danger, but just seeing danger can cause us to confront the fears we hold. Hence the phrase, it was like a car accident, I just couldn't look away. Recently, I was playing tennis and overheard a conversation happening amongst players on an adjacent court. In short, one of the players was mocking her friends for a belief in God. I didn't want to be distracted from an intense match with my dad and brothers, but the conversation was like a car accident. I just couldn't stop listening. You really think there's some God out there just creating a universe? You really think there's a heaven? I don't believe in God. I believe in science and stuff. Yes, it was a pretty deep conversation to be having in between games, and I was taken aback. I knew the so-called, quote, war between science and religion existed amongst keyboard warriors on social media, but I was startled to hear it play out in person. It was particularly disturbing because the players, by my best guess, had to have been high school age. It's an odd thing to hear someone cite a, quote, belief in science as evidence against a belief in God. Indeed, the takeaways we've established thus far are largely drawn from things that we have learned about the universe using the scientific method. In other words, saying science somehow disproves God is like saying that there can't be an author to the book because you learn by reading. The idea that one would need to choose between science and God doesn't hold water. Science is often portrayed as a completely unbiased process of simply observing facts, but it's important to remember something I first heard from Dr. Frank Turek. Quote, science says absolutely nothing. Scientists say something. In other words, every scientist is a human, and so therefore they have a worldview and they have preconceptions. Takeaway number 5 is that science says nothing. Scientists say something. Dr. Turek explains that the debate between science and God really isn't a debate over evidence at all. In most cases, we're all dealing with the same evidence. It's really a debate over philosophy. For example, many scientists who do not believe in God rule out supernatural causes ahead of time. So even if the scientific evidence points to a cause outside of time, space, and matter, a scientist who does not believe in God must not follow the evidence there. They must continue searching for a, quote, natural cause. The irony is that this, quote, belief in science requires blind faith, the precise accusation often leveled at people for believing in God. Rather, belief in God allows a scientist to follow the evidence wherever it leads them. This is out of chapter 12 from I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. A further irony is that modern science was largely developed by people who were motivated to study nature because they believed in God. For instance, Isaac Newton, the scientist who discovered gravity when an apple fell and hit him on the head, viewed God as a great engineer. Galileo, considered the father of modern science, said, "We cannot presume to know how God thinks. We must go out and look at the world he created." He viewed God as a divine craftsman. Think about it. If you believed there was no God, why would you expect there to be coherent laws across the entire universe you could study? Copernicus, who discovered that the sun was the center of the universe rather than Earth, wasn't dealing with new evidence or new ways to observe the stars. Rather, he was driven to this discovery by believing that the universe is mathematical and orderly because a rational God created it. And that again is from The Soul of Science, Christian Faith and Natural Philosophy. A belief in science with no God has massive philosophical implications, similar to those that would apply to a belief that humans are essentially blindly evolved apes. We'll review this further in the next section, but as always, I leave you to consider our options. 1. If there is a God, science is a process we use to learn about the universe God created. If there's no God, science is a religion unto itself. The possibility of a miracle must be ruled out ahead of time.